I don't know why, but people like buying Skyrim. It has earned a spot in the top 10 best-selling games of all time, at least according to IGN, and I think its spot in that list is pretty unique. Aside from The Witcher 3, every other game on that list has some sort of multiplayer component, which makes sense as multiplayer games usually sell better as they have longevity in a way that single-player games don't always. It's just easier to convince someone to buy a multiplayer game, and also by the nature of it being multiplayer, if one friend likes it a lot, they'll try to convince their other friends to get it as well to join in on the fun. With Skyrim specifically though, I think the reason it has reached the heights it's reached is because people buy it more than once. It's had so many re-releases to the point where it's a meme, but the reason it's been able to is because the audience wants it. No matter the year, no matter the console, people want to have an up-to-date way to play it. And while I'm sure with most of the other games on this list, people do own more than one copy of it, I think with the exception of Tetris, Skyrim definitely benefits more from this than pretty much everything else. For the video on my main channel, I did a bunch of research on the sales of the game, but I couldn't really find a good spot to put it in because it just slowed things down and wasn't really relevant to the conversation, but I did find it interesting, and yeah, I wanted to talk about it a bit right here, right now with you. I want to start out by breaking down the sales data for Skyrim by looking at how many copies it sold on each console versus PC and all that good stuff. Because yeah, that 60 million number is huge, and I think it's important to know where it comes from. I had one comment on the main channel video that suspected it was because of people playing it on their Alexa, because I guess that's a thing you can do. So, let's see if they're right. Let's see if they're right. It is hard to find specifics on sales data for games as it really relies on the companies putting that out there for you, but there are various things that try to track these numbers to the best of their ability. So that is what I'm going to be going off of here, which means take it with a grain of salt. I collected this information from VG Charts and VG Insights, so that's where this is from. It might not be 100% correct, but we're gonna look at it and talk about it because it's as good of a guess as we have. So the original version of the game sold 35.61 million copies. The breakdown being, and these are all rough numbers, around 8.9 million sold on Xbox 360, about 6.5 million sold on PS3, just under 4 million sold on PC in the physical version, over 15 million sold on Steam, and around 1 million sold on Switch. These numbers all mostly make sense to me. I will say I was a bit surprised on how low the Switch numbers were based on how many people own a Switch, but I guess it makes sense that, this came out in 2017. It came out, I'm pretty sure, at the same time that Breath of the Wild came out. So if you buy a Switch and you're gonna buy a big open world game, you're probably going to get the Nintendo exclusive one instead of the one that's been out for 6 years already and also doesn't run all that well on the console. Also, the digital version still costs $60 and the physical is $50, which means if you get Skyrim on the Switch, you are spending twice as much money for a worse version. The only thing it has over other versions is that you can play it handheld, but with the advent of the Steam Deck and other handheld consoles, it's pointless. It's pointless. It's a terrible deal. It makes sense now. It makes sense to me now. As for the special edition, it sold 1.8 million on Xbox One, 3.3 million on PS4, and 11.8 million on Steam, combining for just under 17 million copies. And then there's also the VR version, which on PS4 sold over 1 million, and on PC sold around 300,000. All these together add up to about 54 million, which is under the 60 million plus figure that Bethesda has put out there. And this is mostly because I couldn't find any information on how many copies it sold on Xbox Series X, PS5, or on PC in the Xbox store. Well, I imagine that PC number is low because most people who are using it probably just have Game Pass. I'd assume that the missing 6 million probably would be made up on Xbox Series X and PS5. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but that seems right. Maybe about 3 million each. So yeah, between these three versions, I've accounted for about 54 million, have a presumed 60 million plus, and this doesn't count the anniversary edition, which is technically an add-on to the special edition, so it's not a standalone game. But I have no idea how many that sold. I couldn't find anything on it. I assume a decent bit. And also it doesn't include Game Pass downloads, which I guess technically isn't buying Skyrim. so it shouldn't be included in my People Like Mine Skyrim video, but I imagine a lot more people have played it through Game Pass, and maybe even bought Game Pass because of the Bethesda acquisition. Either way, it sold a lot of copies on a lot of consoles, and it's not just its vanilla edition that sold well, it's also the special edition. There's certainly a drop-off between the two, but given how long each of them have been out, it's pretty impressive how close they are. Now, I think it's a fair enough assumption to assume that a decent amount of people played vanilla Skyrim and then bought it again when the special edition came out to have it on newer systems and have a smoother version of it that has more mod integration. But of course, both of them selling well isn't a guarantee that this is the case. Someone might buy Skyrim for the first time with the special edition. I'm sure that happened to plenty of people. So you might be thinking, Raz, your hypothesis is unfounded. It is based on the guess that because the original version sold well as the special edition, that people bought both of them. And that's not enough information. Which is why I ran an infallible poll. It's completely legitimate and 100% fact on a YouTube community poll. It's the most scientific way to do it. Yes, in the community tab, I asked people how many copies of Skyrim they own. Obviously, it'd be good to do something more thorough, have like an actual survey that has branching questions to figure out exactly which versions people own, which consoles they bought them for, and how much DLC they own for it, and all that. That'd be great. And also how much of the game they played, how many trophies they got. That'd be a cool breakdown, but that would be a lot of effort for just a passing curiosity. So this hopefully will do for now. So yeah, I've asked people how many versions of the game they've bought over the years, and the results were interesting. Of people who said that they own Skyrim, 60% of them own more than one version, which is wild. That means over half of people who bought Skyrim bought it again. Around 26% owned 3 or more versions, and 9% owned more than 4. And yeah, I think this is pretty wild. The fact that nearly 10% of respondents to this poll owned 4 or more versions of the game is a testament to how Bethesda's re-release strategy is working, and probably how it will continue to work for the rest of time. Todd has you in the palm of his hand and will keep making you buy the game until the sun implodes. Skyrim's core fandom is willing to go to bat for it over and over again because it offers an experience that they don't think can be replicated by anything else. That probably reminds them of an easier time, and yeah, it's really the best thing Bethesda has going for them right now, as people will always have nostalgia for Skyrim, and even as they trip over themselves with everything else they're working on, Skyrim will always remain Skyrim, and its flexibility will always be appealing to a certain group of people. There is just a loyalty there that most other games don't have, and even though the ones on this top 10 list are extremely beloved, I don't think most of them have it. With that said, it's worth noting that all sorts of things help those sales numbers and increase the chances of people buying it more than once. Steam sales happen all the time, so you can get it for pretty dirt cheap, which, people who like the game are like, oh, hey, it only costs $5 to get Skyrim on here too. Why not? And I don't know that other games, especially ones on this list, go down in price that much that often. Like, I own 3 different versions of Skyrim and I don't even like it. But yeah, I think it's an interesting sales story and differs from a lot of other games because its audience is more rabid and loyal than most other games, especially for a single player game like this one where the devs haven't really changed much about it over the years, certainly adding in the DLC into the special edition version and stuff like that. Clearly, mods have introduced tons and tons of ways to change the game, which certainly is part of what has brought people back too, and justified people buying it more than once, buying it on PC after maybe they played it on console, or buying the special or anniversary edition to have access to mods easier. Although I imagine most people who use mods don't care as much about the way they're implemented in the special edition. I'd guess that a lot of the community content is less robust than what you might find other places. Real Skyrim fans, let me know. Anyway, yeah, this is Skyrim. People buy it a lot. Not only has it sold a lot, but individuals themselves have bought a lot of copies, more than once. I don't have much more of a point. Like, this is why it didn't make it into the video. I just think it's kind of interesting. It's second channel interesting. Maybe. Anyway, as always, I'm sorry for wasting your time. Bye.